Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 200 of the Amigos. Woo! I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And we're here to celebrate the last 5 years of Amiga action. Yeah.
That's right.
So, Aaron, we've gathered here with our closest friends here in the chat on this lovely...
I know we're here by ourselves.
on this lovely Friday afternoon. And we're going to go through some of the hot hits of the Amigos for the past 5 years.
And then 10 minutes after that, shut her down.
Now, we want to make sure, because I see that you have that cigar in your mouth, that we don't want to speak with the cigar in our mouth.
That's every time I'm going to speak
because
with
that's akin to eating on the
What do you-
mic.
man,
I
do you
meant
have-
to
is
talk
there
about
food
this
here
right
too?
before the show started. But
You know
we'll
I
leave
can't
it
eat
in.
anymore. Do you understand?
That's
you
true.
don't have to bring that up.
You've got to replace all of your eating with cigar consumption.
I'm on a liquid diet, if you know what I mean.
Have you ever known, we started talking about this just a second ago, but we kind of let the subject drop. Have you ever known anyone personally that ate cigars, that chewed them up?
You ever seen that movie, Over the Top?
No, but I know
Trying
about
to make it over the top. Sammy Hagar or something.
Yeah.
There was a guy in that was a arm wrestler, and he would eat his. And there was a real life guy that did that. I used to see him. That
But
was,
you've never known anybody personally to imbibe
who would do
cigars.
that? That'd be like if I asked you, Bo, do you know anyone that eats the branches off of a tree? It's that likely. No
Is it
one
really?
just eats a cigar.
Well, the guy on Over the Top did.
But he was trying to intimidate a sucker.
Oh, he wasn't doing it for pleasure.
No. It was lit.
Ooh, that's crazy.
Assumably, he was also lit. I would assume before. That's the only way I'd do it. But no, I don't know anyone that eats cigars. What's your fascination with that? That's weird.
Well, it's just the way that you're dipping it in the drink there.
Listen, that's the way you do it. That's the way it's...
Money for nothing.
That's
6 for free.
This is the kind of inner conversation that's made us stars right here. No, people are turning this thing off in mass.
So here we go. July 23rd, 2015. This date in Amigos history. What was it?
July 23rd, 2015. Let's see here. I don't know.
That was the first episode of the Amigos Everything Amiga podcast.
2015 July. Now, was that episode 0 or episode 1?
That was, well, I think we recorded episode 0 and 1 on the same day.
I don't remember.
So, do you remember what it was like down here? Do you remember where we were sitting, what we were doing?
I don't remember for that one. I don't.
Okay.
I would. No, I think we're sitting at your table, which right off camera here, and under those lights, and we had your whatever recording rig you had, and we were. I think we had microphones, earphones, didn't we?
Right. We were actually sitting at that long black table, which
Yeah.
was pulled up under here, and we had the USB mics. That was a weird gimmick. Okay, so that was our first date in Amigos history.
Okay. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah. Now, speaking of history,
Yeah.
one of the things that our listeners suggested on the Discord, because I put out the call, I said, what are some things that you want us to talk about? And they said, well, why don't you talk about your individual gaming histories? And I realized that we hadn't really done that. We did that on our Sinclair, but we've never really done that on Amigos.
I think, well, in the very, very 0 episode, we sort of vaguely go into it.
It was
yeah.
also 5 years ago, so it's possible that some people might have not tuned in since then. So, Aaron, tell me about your gaming history.
Well, Bo, my gaming history is long and detailed. If I could go in, no, it's listen, I grew up in the 70s, so there wasn't nothing until the Atari came along. In my case, the Odyssey 2, which we got in the early 80s, and we graduated from the 02 up, and I love the 02. I think Gary James is in here. He knows. He gets it. And then we moved on to the Color Computer 2, then the Color Computer 3, which I loved as well, and then played a lot of games on there. And then we moved on to the Tandy PC line. And I was with the Tandys up until high school when I got my first Amiga. I'd see my buddies with Amigas. They looked awesome. But also, I used to rag on them something fierce because I used to call them the entrance machine. It would have these awesome entrances, and then the game would be not that great.
Right.
But I was fronting, man.
You were secretly jealous.
That's right, because my IBM couldn't do jack squat, and so I bought an Amiga 1000 for my buddy, and the love affair began. And of course, I've bought and sold 2 Amiga 1000s and a slew of Amigas. I've owned every Amiga that there is, except for, I'm not gonna say that because there's all these weird variants of the 500, but I've had every Amiga there is except for The 1500, I didn't have one of those.
You got a 3000?
Yeah, 3000, 4000, 2000.
And then you had the 4000T.
CD, CD. I didn't know. I have never had a CD TV, so I'd like to have that one. So after the Amiga ran its course, I sold my 1200 that was decked, and I got a 486 PC. Did the PC thing for a while, but I was jonesing for that Amiga, and so when the opportunity arose to get another one, I was back another 1000, got it back, and have been pretty much on and off playing Amiga stuff ever since. So Amiga's my baby. Although I will say, since we did this show, the one thing that I've taken out of it is I fell in love with about 1 million other machines, and so including the Spectrum, of course. I always loved the Atari. My neighbor had one of those. I always was interested in the C64, but I've grown to appreciate it more than I ever did. And other things, wackier things like the Sam Coupe and the Wonder Swan, and all the fun things like that. So that's pretty much the long story. What about you?
Well, I'm going to talk about my history a little bit later on in the show.
Oh, okay.
But if you were, people like to label everything these days. They like to slap labels on people. And, I don't want to say that you're a console guy. I don't want to say you're a computer guy. I don't want to say you're an arcade guy, but if you had to give yourself a percentage in each category, console, computer, arcade, how would you classify yourself?
I would say computer guy. Listen, consoles, no, although now I've got tons. But at the time, I didn't have any. My brother had those. That was my brother's bag. And the arcade stuff, as much as I was into it, and still am to a certain degree, it came late. And it's an expensive game. But the computer, man, they've always been there.
Would you say 80-10-10?
No, not that much. I'd say 65-20. No, not even that much. 50 and then 225.
Okay.
Let's go there.
Man. That's good. All right, Aaron. September 16th, 2015, a mere couple months after we launched the show, we had our first interview.
Okay.
Do you remember who our first interviewed guest was?
Let me think here. It wasn't Sven.
Nope.
It wasn't Will. We talked to him about D-Paint. I don't know. Who was it?
It was Rob Flack O'Hara.
Oh, yes. That was the very first one.
That was the very first one,
wow. Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't get to set in, or if you'll recall, that interview took place that I wasn't here. And so I came after. Remember, I had to work.
No, we interviewed Rob on the show before he came on the show. So this was not when he came to visit West Virginia.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I love Flack. Flack's a big reason why we're here. It's funny, you hear his name talked about a lot with people. A lot of people listen to his show before they started their podcast. And it's great. And his stuff, and whenever he releases a new show, I'm always giddy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And of course, Sprite Cast on all of his little spinoffs. I've listened to almost all of his stuff. I didn't get into the jogging one, although maybe I should.
I think the jogging thing is his friend's podcast.
But I thought he did some sort of exercise thing, didn't he?
No.
No? Okay. Oh, he must have just talked about it.
I think he talked about doing it. Yeah. Maybe one day.
Jogging blows.
It's not fun. It's not fun, I can tell you that.
I know a lot of people do it, though.
I'm doing the Couch to 5K. I'm running.
What's that?
3 times a week. You go out, you get the app. The app says, start running. You start running.
What app?
The app that says Couch to 5K.
All right.
Okay. So you get your watch on, right? You get your Apple Watch. You strap it on.
No.
Then you get out your iPhone. You say, talk to me, iPhone. You launch the app. You start running. Your watch goes, burp, and then you say, okay, slow down and walk. Then you walk for a while and start running again. You do this interval training until you feel like you're going to die, and then you go home. And then every day it gets a little bit worse, and then all of a sudden you're running a 5K.
That thing is too expensive. That's a too expensive hobby for me. Because I'd go out there, I'd have the iPhone, I'd have the Apple Watch. I'd take 3 steps, tip over, land on the iPhone, and then smack the Apple Watch on the ground. That's $7,000 in the crapper right there.
Yeah.
So no, thank you.
All right. For our first, I solicited our fabulous Amigos community for some videos if they wanted to share a video about what this show means to them. And we're going to start out with our first one. Our first one comes from the one and only Chris Folds.
Hey guys, congratulations on making it to episode 200. A fantastic achievement. I think I'm one of the few people that actually tuned into week 1, episode 1 when it came out, somehow discovering it. and hear two goofballs talking about one of the world's worst Amiga games. Can't believe you chose that for episode 1. I only tuned in for episode 2 to see if it got any worse. Thankfully it didn't. It picked up. And since then it's become a staple of mine. I think I've listened to you guys in my ears for 300, 400, maybe even 500 hours worth of content. Everything from obviously keyboards and keycaps, that's probably 100 hours worth, to boats, cruise trips, Mothman. It's fantastic. I love it all. You guys should be really proud of what you've built. You built not just a show, but you built a community around it with the fans, the Discord, and just keeping Amiga alive for so many folks. That's what the show kind of means to me nowadays. It's kind of one of my weekly escapes from reality. You two guys have become kind of two of my best friends that somehow I've never met, and I hope to kind of meet with you guys at some point. I'm aiming for Amiga Island next year, so if one of you can make it to there, that'd be fantastic. But if not, I guess at some point I'll make it to West Virginia and get to see Mothman for myself. I'm probably being told Mothman's not in West Virginia, but I don't know. After your explanation of cricket, I can get away with anything. So let's say here's to another, I won't say 200 episodes because I think Aaron might beat you down by then, but let's at least another 50 or 100 before you two guys get into a massive fight live on YouTube. So take it easy. Thanks again for all your content. Adios.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much.
That was beautiful, man.
Yeah.
That was inspiring. You know, it's funny. I was just telling Boat there during my painstaking 200th episode research. I was milling around, and sure enough, right here, I even wrote it down. Episode 33, Winter Games. But by the way, that's the one I called in from the car.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time, as far as I could tell, that was the first time we ever mentioned Folds on the show.
Wow.
And you mentioned on here that Folds was developing a game.
That was probably totally inaccurate.
It's what you said.
Yeah.
And so, Folds, we're expecting your game to come out any day now. So
Any day.
Get busy, man. But thank you. That was awful nice, wasn't it? And you know, Folds, we were just talking about jogging and stuff. He never stops. He runs the switch. You can't even stop to shoot anything. He has to shoot it on the go.
That's right. He was running a marathon as he shot that.
That's awesome. I wonder how he did.
So, May 14th, 2016.
All right.
So this is almost a year later.
All right.
Our first video show.
Yes.
Do you remember what happened? Our first video show. Do you remember coming down into Amigo Studios that fateful evening?
Well, it's funny because I also noted that it came from the desert.
Right.
And I watched a good chunk of that show. But I remember coming down here because you were like, you had told me, I believe, that we were going to do video. I think you may have told me ahead of time. But normally, Boat would just spring, much like this hat, for example. These things just happen. I don't know what's going on. And he goes, listen, we're going to be on video. And I said, oh, man. Because I'm me, big, weird-looking goof. I don't need to be on video. But you insisted on it. And so here we are. And you put up the green screen, the whole 9 yards. And having watched that first episode again, it looks like, if you look real close to that episode, it feels like that the cameraman's got glaucoma or something. It's shot through like one of those terry cloths or cheesecloths. You know, it's all blurry. And we've got these big headphones on, and there's these mics sticking out. It's like
it's a real nightmare.
And the first thing, what I liked about it was, the very first thing that happens, you're like, okay, let's talk about Amiga news, and you're instantly confused as to how to get screens to come up, and we just sit there in silence. And I remember this moment. I remember this moment in history because I thought to myself, this ain't gonna work. There's no way this video is gonna work. And you look so confused. I'm like, we're screwed.
It was a rough start for sure.
So you remember that as well?
I do.
What did you think when this was happening? This is great. That's usually the way you look at stuff.
Well, I knew that I was so set on that green screen. And we could have avoided 99% of all the problems that we had.
Now you hate the green screen.
If we would have just filmed against the brick wall that we're against right now.
You know, if I could take a moment, because I've got something here that's rather topical to that. So I went through the show and determined how many different times we switched camera angles.
Oh, right. No, don't talk about it because that's a big part of this
too?
show.
Oh, my. Okay, well, then because there's plenty of them.
Yep.
I'm going to see how good you were about it. But yeah, I distinctly remember that. And I remember going home and watching that and thinking to myself, my God in heaven, this is a bad idea. You need to get off this show now. And I remember wanting to tell you, Boat, no more cameras. We just got to go back to the podcast. But I didn't have the heart to tell you because you already have bought. Because as soon as that show was over, you're like, I'm going to get better cameras and lights. I'm going to bring in a professional director. I'm going to get a Foley guy. I'm like, oh, Lord. And so we were off the races.
So you asked me about my gaming history. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about that. So obviously I'm much, much younger than you are. I was not around in the 70s at all. I was not born until the 80s had already gone past 1 year. I was born in 1981. A good year. My first computer was the computer that you can see right to Aaron's left, the Atari 1200 XL. My dad brought that home well past its sell-by date. The Atari ST had already come out by that point, and so they were giving these things away. In fact, my dad was able to purchase one from one of his friends from work for a very small price. And
you remember what it was? You can tell us now.
I think it might have been $100.
That's pretty good.
So yeah, when you consider that just a couple years before when this thing was released was $7.99. So yeah.
That's outrageous.
Yeah, well, that's a big reason why the 1200 XL is the rarest machine,
outrageous.
because they sold none of them.
What were they thinking?
It's like, here's a machine that's just like the 800, except it's 1,000% more.
You know, what was Atari thinking? I mean, Atari and Commodore, the guys running those two outfits, they must have been on super crack.
Yeah.
The decisions they made were unbelievably idiotic.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I played around with this thing for a while, but it wasn't long before I discovered that some of my pals at school were playing with this other thing called the Nintendo. And from that point on, I lived, ate, breathed, and slept Nintendo. I used to dream about having a Nintendo. I'd have these dreams where it would just be enough that I'd come downstairs and I would see it there. I'd wake up happy. So this is how into the Nintendo. I subscribed to Nintendo Power and read the magazine before I had a Nintendo.
Man.
So
what was the allure, Bode?
Well, the Atari, as great as it was, it couldn't offer experiences that were like The Legend of Zelda or Super Mario Brothers.
Oh God, The Legend of Zelda.
I know you hate it.
I think you could offer those.
And the thing is, I'll be the first to tell you, I was sucked in by Nintendo's marketing machine. The cartoons, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, Captain Power, all that Nintendo stuff. I just couldn't. I ate it up. I was right in the perfect age. In 1987, I was 6 years old. 1988, I was 7.
Gullible child idiot.
Yes. And so when I got chicken pox, I still remember we drove down to the Circuit City, though it's now a Chinese buffet.
Oh, not a good one either.
That's not bad. It's not. You don't like it? What do you think? What's
It's
your
okay.
favorite? What's your favorite area Chinese buffet? If you don't like that one,
I like the one up here at the Putnam
You
Village.
think China
actually.
Chef's better?
Yeah, I like it.
And
I like Taste of Asia. Now that's some good.
but that's not a buffet. That's a real
no, it's not.
But anyway, got the Nintendo, loved it. Got the Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, all Nintendo machines. And it wasn't really until I was almost in college when I rediscovered the Atari down in the basement. And this was about the same time that I was getting online for the first time. And I discovered there was this huge community of people that were talking about Atari 8-bit computers. I was like, wow, I've got one of those. That's really cool. And so, and that was when I discovered deeper games like Mule and stuff like that were super awesome. But I never once saw or heard of the Amiga. I got really into the retro scene in college and started collecting for all the systems, got a bunch of games. And I moved to South Korea and I sold everything. And then when I moved back,
Bad times.
Yeah, when I moved back though, I moved into this house. This was the first time that I actually had enough space to really display a collection. So I started buying some stuff back. And I got a couple arcade machines and a pinball machine, thanks to your logistical help. And
good machines too.
Yeah. And when you came to me with this idea of starting an Amiga podcast, I was like, well, there's nothing else. There's nothing else like it. There's no English language regular Amiga show out there that's only about the Amiga. And so I thought, well, why not? I was listening to Rob's podcast about the C64. And I was like, boy, why don't we just do what he does for the C64, except do it for the Amiga? And that's how the show was born.
Let me ask you a question. By the way, what was the name of that other Amiga show that we never heard of that people mentioned? It was like, they're like, you guys are just like with the Amiga Round Table or something.
Oh, yeah, because they had stopped before we started.
Yeah. how long do you recall the length of time it took between when I mentioned to you that we should do a podcast versus when we actually started the podcast?
Oh, it was months and months and months. It was probably 6 months.
Do you recall why that was?
You had to go to Kentucky to do all your training.
I just wasn't that interested really at the time. One day, Boat just called me. He's like, "Listen, I got everything ready to go for the podcast. Come on over." I was like, "Uh-oh." And then that's literally the way we started, and we've never stopped since.
Yeah.
It's
200 weeks
creepy,
later.
Because I mean, I had no intention of doing an Amiga podcast or any other podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, who'd have thunk it?
Well, this is what happens. You have the great idea, and then I go all in, jump in the deep end, and that's.
How do you figure this show has? And I don't mean the Amigos, but I mean podcasting and video production in general. How have you, Boat of Car, managed to not jettison this by now, as you have so many other hobbies and during the 200 episodes that we've done?
Well, as you know, I've wanted to quit several times, and you're always the one that talks me back off the ledge.
No quitting.
You know?
No quitting.
Yeah.
Too many games.
And so, I keep doing it because of the people. I keep doing it because of the community. I love the community. I do like the games too. Some weeks I like.
And
the games.
I will say, the times where you were talking about moving on, there were some bad things going on, real life stuff.
I sometimes I feel overwhelmed because I tend to take on too many different kinds of real world jobs. Mm-hmm. But these days, living's easy. I love doing the show. I love doing both our shows, and so we're going to keep going for the foreseeable future.
Too stupid to stop.
That's right. Next date in Amigos history.
All right.
January 11th, 2017.
January 11th? I don't know.
This is where Chris Folds, the one and only, proposed a Slack channel for the Amigos Brain Trust.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
The old Slack.
So before there was Discord, there was Slack.
Yeah.
And this was we had formed our brain trust, and we were emailing back and forth these big emails, And Chris said, why don't we try this Slack thing? And the Slack thing works so well that we decided to just open it up to all of our supporters and through Discord. We couldn't do it through Slack because Slack wanted to charge us. Discord is free. We like free. On January 11th was also a date that shall live in infamy, because we moved the site from amigospodcast.com to its current home at everythingamiga.com, thanks to the technical wizardry of a whole bunch of people, most notably Jason Warnes. And
behind the scenes master.
Yeah. And
he takes good care of us.
Lots of other folks helped out with that transition too.
It's funny. I never knew why we left Slack. I mean, I'm sure you told me, but I don't remember nothing.
Yeah.
And so to me, it was just like, hey, it was all like when we started the show. You just said, hey, listen, go get this and put this in. And I did it. And then and you were like, we're not going back over here. So I stayed on Slack for a little while longer. And then and I had no idea why. So this is the first time I can remember ever hearing why. Just like when you changed the URL of the site, I wasn't 100% sure why you were doing it. And I'm still not sure, but it sounded good to me.
There we go. All right, it's time for another video. You ready, Aaron?
Yeah, man.
2, 1. Happy 200th episode! Feel like we should have party hats and streamers and
celebrate, guys. Seriously, we've loved your podcast from the very start. Like, we do one every week, but we're not even up to 200 yet. So
I haven't got the stamina.
You've beat us to it, and it's amazing to see how your community's grown. Discord, I love chatting to you guys every day. I love coming and seeing John in Ireland. That was awesome. Amiga Island, and it's just great to see you guys from the US really taking an interest in this kind of really big in Europe platform, wasn't it?
Yeah, great to see the other perspective of how things were in America. Yeah, absolutely. So keep the passion alive, guys, and congrats on 200 episodes.
Keep rocking for another 200.
Thank you so much, Dan and Ravi. It's amazing. It's the most mind-boggling thing in the universe, really, that these guys are pro major league podcasters. They've got a real show with a real following. They're in Retro Gamer. They're in The Guardian. They're talking to the Queen.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
They talk to the Queen.
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
She's a big Amiga fan.
She loves the Amiga. And, we're just a couple of goofs in West Virginia.
It's funny. I'll watch Retro Hour quite often. And, Ravi seems like he's everywhere. And I've watched lots of Dan's videos. He did a lot of YouTube stuff before I even knew it. And they must have started their show directly before or directly after we did this one, because it seems like almost simultaneous that they came out.
Right.
And it's great. Yeah, they're super duper pros.
They get the biggest names in the biz.
My favorite episode there still is when they had when they did the episode on a phone freaking and hacking, they had Captain Crunch on there. I thought that was so interesting. We've tried our hand at interviews with a mixed. Well, you're real good at it, but then throw me in a mix and it kind of goes south.
It just doesn't really suit our show, I think.
What are we going to ask somebody?
Right,
What's your favorite kind of moonshine? I don't know. What are we going to say? We don't know.
Yeah. So we leave that to the pros.
Absolutely.
August 29th, 2017 was our first studio move. Do you remember where we moved to and from?
Let's see. We were in front of the curtains.
Mm-hmm.
So this would have been when we moved in front of the television set with no table.
That's very correct.
I hated that.
It was terrible. I had this grand idea that we would display images on the television, and it would just be a fun party. But it sucked because not only were we awkward there, it also ruined the ability for me to use the basement for anything other than a podcast studio.
It's funny. I actually took note of that when I was looking through this stuff, and the one thing that I noticed is that the camera was. I didn't like having the camera aimed at my knees, crotch, and belly, which is effectively what it was. So I can't imagine that was good for viewership.
Now, do you remember what episode that was?
Well, I do because I wrote it down. Well, what was it? So I don't have to look it up.
Neuromancer.
Yeah,
that was also a poor game.
That
didn't
what?
Exactly.
I like
that
game.
Off. Yeah. I know
that's a good game.
It's a good book. All right.
It's a great book.
Now, just in time for Brent's arrival, we're going to go on a little Amigos studio tour. This was another thing that was suggested by some folks in the Discord. They want to see all there is to see in Amigos Studios.
How's that? Okay.
Prepare to be disappointed wildly. Okay, so I'm just going to let
you take care of business there.
So, this is our recording area. Okay, it is in front. Let's see, let's swing this around. To look at it from this angle, this is what we see. We see this, and this is our alternate screen. This is our recording PC. Coming around here is the dehumidifier that kicks on every time we start the show, and then I have to stop and turn it off. Over here is the plastic fantastic Mac that I'm trying to rehabilitate, my Atari 2600 Activision collection. Triple action pinball machine that Aaron helped me get from Huntington. Mario Brothers arcade machine back there with a C64 monitor on top of it. My NES black box collection. This is sort of the bookshelf that holds all of our games, including a bunch of Amiga games that Tapes from the Crypt sent us, boxed, sealed Amiga games, as well as our ZX Spectrum collection from so many of you guys that have sent us games. We have the MAME machine that is set up to look like a Neo Geo machine. Currently not working, but Aaron thinks that he solved the problem, thankfully. And we have some arcade marquees that my buddy Chris built light boxes for. And we circle back around to these guys. You've seen it all, folks. That is Amigos Studios.
Is this going to be like LGR? Like now the magic's gone?
The magic's gone. You can talk about it every time we mention this from now on.
That's right.
All right. So, Brent, now that you've joined us, we've talked about my gaming history and Aaron's gaming history. Why don't you talk a little bit about your gaming history?
I have gamed since I was about 6. Started with the TRS-80, I believe. Moved on to the NES, where I was a huge renter of games. Would rent for the weekend, beat it, return it, get a new game. My parents loved that because they didn't have to buy anything. I only owned 3 Nintendo games throughout my life. It was Wizards and Warriors, the Pac-In, and Dark Tower.
Really?
Which was a horrible game.
Wizards and Warriors wasn't great.
No, Deadly Towers.
Okay, Deadly Towers.
Not Dark Towers.
Deadly Towers is a terrible game.
Yes, it is. That was the first time I hacked a game by randomly putting in letters and numbers into the password until it worked, because I hated the game so much I couldn't get past certain points. And then I found myself in a whole new area with whole new abilities and weapons, and I was like, man, this is great. And then I lost that password and never played again.
Oh.
From there, Super Nintendo up to Nintendo 64. And then really I shifted to PC about the Nintendo 64 era. I owned a Saturn. I owned a Dreamcast. And after that, I went PC almost all the way. I did own a 360, but that was the last console I've bought.
Would you consider yourself more of a console guy than a computer guy in terms of retro?
Retro, absolutely. Absolutely, because that was my childhood.
Yeah, I'm the same way. All right. January 6th, 2017. So from August... that should be 2018. August 29th of 2017 to January 6th, 2018. So about 6 months we stayed in front of the TV. And then we decided that it was time, it was enough. After January 6th, we moved a second time. Do you remember where we moved to?
We moved right here.
We moved right here, except the table was facing in a different direction.
Yeah, it was. Our backs were to this wall.
No, that's not correct. Our backs were towards the arcade machine.
Oh, okay.
We were facing this way.
Bad. Yeah, that's right, because your computer's over here.
Do you remember what episode that was?
Yeah, I've got it written down, but I can't. What was it? Go ahead and tell us.
If you've got it written down,
well, because I have to go through all these notes. What the hell?
One Step Beyond.
Oh, yeah.
One Step Beyond. Another classic. This was also the first time, I've had this $1,000 tower down here. It's the first time, this was episode 127, that we actually used that machine to record the show on. Can you believe that?
You were using a laptop.
Yeah, I was using a crappy laptop. Like, we couldn't stream and record the show at the same time.
Yeah, I remember.
So, dumb guy.
Of course, then we had to fight this thing's USB ports for...
That's, every machine has its issues. But anyway, Aaron... What I want to know, tell me about your favorite episodes of Amigos and your least favorite.
I've got a huge list of stuff. I'm going to go through all of these, but I went through like a bunch of our episodes, just picked out stuff that I thought was amusing, that struck me as funny. Some of my favorite episodes, just game wise, and nothing really necessarily funny happened in them, but I enjoyed the game a lot. Episode 16, Deluxe Galaga, which I just played recently. I love that game. So it's a ton of fun. We had a lot of fun playing that game. We got to talk about episode 29, the Lionheart episode. It's going to be one of our pivotal episodes. I went back and listened to that one, and you weren't super cruel to Lionheart. You developed your hatred for it after the episode was over.
The longer I felt about it, the more I loathed it.
I think that's horrible. Now, do you remember the first episode that Brent was here for?
I do, I think.
Okay, what was it? I know.
Total guess. I did not look. Was it Dragon's Lair?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. It was Worms. Brent's first episode was Worms.
Really?
Yeah.
What episode number was that?
Let me see here. Here it is. Episode 47. That was Worms. And that was also the first episode we used the really awesome background that Paul Kitchen made for us.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
So I thought that was kind of cool. There was an episode I couldn't remember, and I'm dying. Do you remember the time we showed up to do the game? We were recording. I don't know if we were singing. We were doing it live. And we did two different games. Do you remember that? I did the wrong game that week, and I remember you had a conniption fit. You don't remember that?
Oh, I remember it. I don't remember what game
I don't either. I looked, but I'm assuming you edited that clip out. I was telling Bo before the show that I looked at tons and tons of clips stuff, and almost all of our vicious fights and him beating me down had been removed. So I'm sure just to raise your standing in society, the vicious.
No one needs to see me
vitriol and hate that would. So something else I noticed in the earlier video episodes, and we did this for the longest time, is we would sit here during the intro, and it's stupid. And every time I watch it, I feel like a complete dupe. And by the way, you did it too. We just did it like this, like real still, like that made a difference. I don't know why. That was not good. Another episode that I remember was Hound of the Shadow, which was a gift from, I think it was O'Brien sent us that one, didn't they? And we just said we were going to do it, and we didn't realize it was a text game. I remember that, so we were very surprised when it was almost completely text only. That
was also probably the longest between the time that we've gotten a game and we said we'd review it, and it was literally like 3.5 years later when we finally did
it. Another one that I remember distinctly, Lotus 3, is because you were in France. And so I had to record that one in my room with the TV set and on a Rock Band microphone.
That was one of my favorite episodes. You rapping into the Rock Band mic.
The best part's when you send in your audio review, and I've got a picture of you in a Hawaiian shirt eating noodles. I don't know what the where that picture came from. I didn't know what the hell that was. Something else I'd forgotten, and Brent, you may remember this. For the Jimmy White episode 77 Whirlwind Snuka, Brent is here for that. Do you remember him being here for that?
No.
I didn't either. I couldn't believe it.
That was when we were facing this direction, right?
Listen, you're asking too much. But Brent was here for that one. And also, I had a full beard. I'd forgotten about that, too.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of these, I had a full beard. I want to mention also in episode 77, thanks to our good buddy Dreamcatcher, who's been here forever, we had Lion-O do that intro. That was awesome. I've never gotten over how cool that was. That was great. I wanted to mention, something that was a running gag for years, and it's funny, I tried to figure when it ended, but it went on for so long I just gave up, was our billing of that Defender of the Crown box that just went on forever.
Yeah. I know it's right up there with the keycaps in terms of the story that wouldn't die.
Yeah, you were talking about interviews, our big break. I remember thinking what a big break this was when you interviewed the Oliver twins on here, which was a great interview. But it was a fairly successful episode, but it wasn't like earth-shaking.
It didn't knock down the doors of mass.
I didn't realize how much they had spoke with everyone that would
They'll talk to anybody, obviously.
And then of course the infamous episode 84, the David Pleasant episode where I was scared crap. I was scared like you wouldn't believe, and then intimidated. Pleasance was sort of an intimidating guy. And you told me he was a real sweetheart live.
Oh, yeah. He's a great guy.
He remembered who you were and everything?
Oh, no, I'm sure he didn't. But he acted like he did. He's like, hey, guy. Hey, chief. Yeah. Another
highlight for me, just blazed this, is when we reviewed Walker. I loved Walker, and you hated it so much that I enjoyed picking on you. I thought that was a lot of fun. I loved Walker. Another one of my favorites, episode 104, Kid Chaos. Just because that guy looks so stupid.
Man.
And we agree.
Of all the stupid Amiga mascots, he is the stupidest.
Yeah. And, also, episode 108, Midnight Resistance, that was the last time we ever used the green screen. I could see why. The sound was jacked up. The green screen, my head kept melting into the screen. That's one thing about being bald is that your head...
the shininess doesn't do well with the chroma key.
So that happened quite a bit. Now, one thing I noticed is in episode 113, Bad Dudes, we were at the table over there in front of the TV. And you talked about, it was before the table, but you go, look, we can talk to each other. This is the best setup ever. It's the best. And then episode 114, that's when the table showed up. So clearly, I must have complained until you put it in there. Another one I loved, and I love this one because we got to sit down and do this together. It was so much fun. Was the episode 123, the Double Dragon series, where we played all the Double Dragons. That was a lot of fun. We played those on Amigos Plays. It was fun to go through those. Another one, we were on fire, episode 124, one of my favorite episodes we did, Shaq Fu. I love that. That was so much fun, and it was fun to tell people who Shaq was, and then to talk about the game, and we both ended up liking the game, which I thought that was cool. I thought that was a fun one. Episode 125, the Christmas ep, the first appearance of old Chad and good Matt simultaneously. I thought that was interesting.
That was the largest cast we've ever had on an Amiga.
Now, I want to talk about this. This is not really episode specific, but I want to talk about it because it came up so many times when I was looking through these things. It's the boat challenge. Now, I don't remember exactly when you introduced the boat challenge.
It was in November.
And people would sign on to the boat challenge over and over. Now, ultimately, the boat challenge sank pretty quickly, didn't it? Do you recall how long you went on the boat challenge?
It lasted until about April.
That's 5 months.
Are we talking? Is this the guy from the Amigo Aaron's weight loss wager telling me how his challenge sank and burned?
Let me tell you something, pal. I'm on it I'm on it big time.
I bet you're on it.
I guarantee I'm doing better than you did on the boat challenge.
We're gonna throw down about our challenges. Who's got the best challenge?
How much money did the boat challenge raise for you?
Thousands.
Yeah, didn't we know it took money out of the economy? Thankfully, you made up for it pretty quickly after that by spending a ton of money. I had to bring that up. Episode 129, Jockey Wilson's Darts. That was a great episode. Also, Jimmy White was another one. Those are so much fun. And even the Battle of the Ashes, that game wasn't as much fun as the other ones. And really, the dart game was crap.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun to learn about.
My favorite episodes are always the ones where we learn about some wacky aspect of a foreign culture.
I love it.
Mostly British culture, because that's where a lot of these games come from.
What was the game that was based on the chips, the puzzle game? You mentioned
One Step Beyond.
Yeah. Not my favorite game, but it was so wacky that I enjoyed that.
Yeah, the whole aspect of quavers as a snack.
The fact that this game was based around that. And I remember the entrance was so stupid. Another one I had to mention, just because I just thought it was funny. It was episode 130, Jim Power. That picture of his girlfriend. I can't get over that. I want that on a T-shirt.
I really want that
on a poster.
That should go on next year's Amigos supporter magnet. That's,
Girl. Now, this is, I picked a couple here that scared me because they were so hard to I didn't want to screw up and look like a jerk. And there's a couple of these. Episode 132, Dune. Man, when that got picked, I was shivering. I was like, oh man, this is good. I knew this game was going to be deep and tough. And I'm sure we probably did, we did the best we could, but man, that Dune was tough. Another one, I just exactly along those same lines, episode 166 was Sim Life. I knew that thing was deep. And I remember playing that back when it first came out, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Screw this. But you don't have that option when you do this show. You've got to just kind of dig in. Another one I knew was going to be tough, episode 135, Cruise for a Corpse. But that game stuck in my head. It wasn't the best game, but it was such a unique take on it that I really thought it was a lot of fun, that particular episode. A few of the ones I really enjoyed were when the ones me and Brent did. Because I was scared. What we're going to do with Boat not here, because clearly if you watched the Lotus 3 episode, that was a disaster. So luckily Brent filled in real well for you. For Darkseid and Jurassic Park, and those were pretty fun. And Darkseid actually was a pretty good game, wasn't it, Brent?
Yeah, it's good fun.
We had a good fun. Another one I really enjoyed was episode 157, Terrahawks and Killer Bees and Casey Munchkin off Gary's ports. There were lots of fun, weren't they? We had so much fun with those Odyssey 2 games, so I thought those were pretty cool. And probably the last one on the list, the most notable recent one. Oh, I got to mention 170, The Talking Worm. That was pretty weird, having to play off, having to talk to nothing.
Yeah. That was a new. You got to see what it's like for every Hollywood actor today.
I also should mention any of the episodes where you wear that green suit. Those are no good.
That might come back.
Those are tough to go back and watch. And then lastly, I want to mention the last game that really surprised me because I liked it so much was Chuck Rock 2. I really thought that was a fun game. So that's just a little quick run through. But I went through a ton of these this week, and it's funny. One thing that struck me was we have changed very little. We have not really upped our game or down. That it's sort of pretty much about the same. The one thing that changed, there were two things that really changed. One, we ditched the high score thing that we started. That didn't go. We just gave up.
Well, there were a lot of games that just don't have scores.
But also, I just kept forgetting to do it. Let's face facts. And then secondly, my hardware reviews. Those had to go. Those were. I was nervous about them, and those had. So I'm glad we jettisoned those. So, but aside from that, we pretty much haven't changed hardly anything for 200 episodes. I don't know. Is that good? I don't know.
Well, we'll let the audience decide.
Yes,
about
sir.
That. So, Aaron, February 7th, 2018.
All right.
Okay, just under a year and a half ago, we debuted the second show on the Amigos Retro Gaming Network, ARG Presents.
That's right.
So this was
when was that again? What was it?
February 7th, 2018.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So this wasn't just starting a new show. This led to a rebranding of all of our online identities.
Yeah.
And it made you very nervous. I remember you saying you weren't sure about renaming all of our social media and our YouTube channel to Amigos Retro Gaming.
It did.
Talking about an Amiga.
It did. I mean, you can understand why. And also, I wasn't sure if people were going to be cool with getting stuff in their subscription feed that was not necessarily Amiga based, but it worked out okay.
Yeah. And so that was an idea to just spotlight two games on a different system every week. You came up with a great idea for the wheel, and that show continues today, obviously, with a different host. So, my favorite and least favorite games, or least favorite episodes. My favorite episodes, just like you, I did not go through like you did. You went through and talked about a lot of specific things.
Mm-hmm.
There are just a couple episodes that stick out to me, and they're the ones that have affected my life. Okay, the first one was Jimmy White's snooker. Okay, because I became a snooker fiend for a couple weeks after that show, where I would get up, Eep would be working late. I'd go upstairs, I'd turn on the YouTube, find one of those great 70s matches, and just pour a cold one and just lose myself in the excitement. And just the whole atmosphere of those old snooker matches. Everybody was smoking, everybody was drinking.
Cheering.
And then the second game, you can't talk about one without the other. Jockey Wilson darts.
See, I knew it. I was the exact same way. I mentioned both those. Yeah, I agree.
And I watched that documentary on Jockey Wilson. The most depressing thing in the universe, when they go back to his town.
When he can't even come to the door.
Yeah, it looked like Milton. I mean, it was terrible.
It did.
And so,
but they were eye opening, weren't they?
Yeah.
I was the same way. I watched a ton of like snooker highlights and dart stuff. It was a bygone era that's probably one that we'll never see again.
Right.
And we really never saw it here. So
right.
It made it more fun.
Absolutely. So, my least favorite episodes, there were a couple episodes early on that I really just wanted to stop doing the show.
God,
and it wasn't because of the games, it was because I hadn't figured out how to properly emulate the Amiga yet. Because at the beginning, you're like, man, just play everything on the Xbox, it's going to be fine. Well, guess what? It wasn't fine as of like episode 3. There was just stuff that just flat out didn't work on the Xbox. The Xbox kind of blows when it comes to emulating the Amiga. It's just not good a lot of the time.
It got better since you messed with it.
Well, maybe so. But anyway, so I was like, okay, WinUAE, here we go. Then you have to, this is before I knew about WHD load. And so I was loading up disk images, and having to download individual disk images, unzip them, load them into the emulator. It just sucked. It was so bad. So there were several weeks early on, I'm not ashamed to admit this now, that I flat out just didn't play the game. I'd watch a YouTube thing and I'd be like, you know what? I'm just going to fake it. I'm going to fake it. Now, I don't do that anymore most of the time. But back then, before WHD load, I was like, man, this is just going to suck. It just, every week, I couldn't get the games to work right, or it was just so much of a pain that it wasn't worth it. Now, after I watched the Cake is a Lie gaming series on how to mount a hard drive file with all the WHD load, it was like the Amiga became like this awesome thing, okay? I can't express how much that one article on how to set up that hard file changed my whole outlook towards the system. And ever since then, like we've done bad games. We've done games that I've been nervous about. But even those games, I don't really feel like, I don't have any animosity towards them like I do those early episodes where it was just so frustrating getting the games working. The games I really remember being nervous about, Sim Life, Dune 2. Those are the two that I was just like, oh my gosh.
It's funny. It's eerie how we're both like that. I know when they came up, because we didn't pick those, we would have never picked those.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Ever would we have picked. Another one, Elite Frontiers, is one that you were because we picked it and you vetoed it along. Right. You were like, it's just too much. But Sim Life ended up being a real fun game. And Dune, I certainly understood the appeal of the game. But they were very intimidating games to try to get into. Sim Life, you look at all those charts and stuff, you're just like, holy God. Another one, that timeline, history line, that's another one I was just like, oh boy, it's going to be
but that ended up being okay, because it was like a, like Advance Wars or something.
It's funny,
like
a lot of the old episodes that I flipped through, you mentioned how much trouble you're having.
Yeah.
And we often talk about the House 500 and trying to get that thing working so you could have something to play these games on. And I distinctly remember playing when we did Stunt Car Racer. You had never seen it without glitching on it. And I remember the first time I showed it to you, and without the glitch, you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? I've never seen it like this. I'm like, yes, this is why this is great.
Right.
Because your version was jacked up. It was not your fault. Emulation's hard. It's hard.
So, again, that's another big reason why there's not a lot of Amiga podcasts out there. This is not an easy system to emulate. It's getting a lot easier, these days. But yeah. So, it's time to move on to our next film, our next video.
Our next film.
Get ready.
Hi everyone, I'm off to my man cave, and that's where I normally watch the Amigos shows. So I have to congratulate you today on reaching your episode 200. It's been a nice journey, and I hope it will last for a lot longer. So here we're now almost entering my an old garage, which I made into a man cave. So I painted the front to look like a barn. So here we go in. So here is where I brew my beers and watch the Amigos. And of course, have my Amigas. Some of them. The others are in storage. And I also have a nice brew for tonight on the tap. Ready for me. So that's gonna be lovely. So I have nice one, everyone. And to John and Aaron, go guys.
All right, I'm going to pass the mic. I'm going to pass the mic over to Brent, and Brent's going to talk about his favorite and least favorite Amigos episodes.
Thank you, Edwin Bell. It was awesome.
Thank you, Edmund.
Incredible, man. That's what. When are you going to get into brewing?
That's the next phase. Amigos Brewery.
I'm out.
Easily my least favorite episode of the Amigos. Going right to it. We'll go and get the bad one out of the way. Your all's episode of Alfred Chicken.
I knew it.
I hated that you guys did that without me. I hated that you did it so incredibly poorly and didn't get a lot of aspects of the game. Hated.
Just let it be known. Let it be known that I asked Aaron before we did it. I said, Brent is not going to be here. Are you sure you don't want to do another game this week? And Aaron said, no, man. We're doing Alfred Chicken.
Well, it was too late. It was the day of the game.
Doesn't matter. We could have done something else.
You guys shifted days at the last minute. It's like, yeah, Friday, we're fired up. And it's like, oh, Thursday. I was like, I have to go.
I knew you were going to say that one.
Yeah.
Let it go, man.
Never. Favorite episodes, I love the Snuka episode, mainly because I actually knew way more about it than you guys did, and it was fun to watch you guys discover it. So that was a fun episode. I really enjoyed the Dark Seed episode. Obviously, I was a part of that, but that was a great game with a great history and look at some great art. So I really enjoyed that episode. Probably the next down the line, gosh, I guess it would be the Lotus 3 episode.
Why the hell one?
Just because it was an odd twist of what you guys normally do. If you go back and watch that one, you guys really weren't yourselves on that episode.
Yeah, he wasn't here for that one.
Yeah, but you're right. It was very unique. It was totally different because you didn't have anybody to play off of. So
Yeah.
you were, yeah.
It was a. I actually remember the John phoning in segment. I was like, this is horrible. Because I don't know if I knew at the time that you were. I mean, I knew you were in England, but I didn't know
France.
Overseas.
Or as I refer to it, the Big F.
But it was such a train wreck of an episode that it was
a lot.
It was different and it was memorable. So yeah, I would say those are the ones.
Train wreck. Thank you, Brent.
Yeah.
Thank you for your assessment.
All right, Aaron, November 5th, 2018. This was our third and hopefully final studio move in which you see us as we are in front of the brick wall. Do you know why we moved in front of the brick wall?
I think it was because you got sick of stretching cables everywhere.
That was part of it.
Yeah.
The other part of it was I got that sweet neon sign.
Yeah, that
made.
thing is awesome.
Yeah, and so, but the big part of it is I don't have to actually move any cables. I just pull this table out in front of the computer desk and we're ready to go.
Z-Wolf 2. That's what I've got written down for that.
That's right, episode 171.
Yep.
Z-Wolf 2, great game too.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, eh?
All right, it's time for our next video. And thank you, Edvin, for that last video.
I was dying to see the man cave.
Yeah,
so
man,
that was
Edvin,
awesome.
one of these days, I want to get over to Norway.
If I was a beer drinker, I'd be all up in it.
It's never too late to start.
Listen, I'm a booze drinker.
All right.
Why not both?
Yeah.
Here's our next video.
Hi John and Aaron, Graham from Sydney. Congratulations on reaching 200 episodes. First off, I wanted to say that I discovered your show through Rob Flack O'Hara. I bought his Commodore book through Amazon and discovered his podcasts through that. And he did a cross-promotional episode with you guys. And that's how I found your show. Even though your show was also listed on the same Throwback Network his episodes are listed on. I decided to become a Patreon supporter after episode 62, which was your arcade port episode. I could just relate to your stories, your experiences through the Amiga computers, even though I used an Atari ST during that time of my life, so don't burn me for that. Your shows always entertain me, especially on my long commutes to and from work. Your shows are also informative, And that's why I and everyone else who supports Amigos continues to listen to the shows that you put out. We just love the way how you guys bounce ideas off each other, take little digs at each other, have fun. It's just very entertaining and at times amusing to watch. 2016, when I discovered your show, that was a real tough year for my family. I was working very long hours. My wife was having a real tough time with her mother's cancer battle, and my son was officially diagnosed with ADHD and ODD. So the family life took a real big hit that year, and there wasn't that much fun going on. And your show was one of the few bits of light in that darker year and darker period of my life. The community around this show is really great. The Discord is fantastic, and I've learnt so much. For example, Jason Warnes shared some plans to make one of these things, which is a Amiga RGB to S video adapter. That's a PAL version that I've made. It works like a dream, and it's a real lifesaver. It's fantastic. And because of the community around your show, it's actually why I decided that in 2020 I'm going to make the journey to Amiga Island. So I'm looking forward to meeting everyone who can make it to that event. And lastly, a toast for 200 episodes and 200 more. Cheers!
I'm thinking about going.
Thanks very much, Graham. That was awesome
Graham.
story. And we're so glad that we were able to bring some light into what sounded like a really, really rough year for you a couple years ago.
Yeah, Graham is a very generous fellow. He's always been super nice to us.
Speaking of Graham, what you see before you, this is a true episode 200 miracle. So the FedEx guy came to deliver this morning. The FedEx people, they say, sometime during the day we will be to deliver. That's all you get. That's all you get. So Eep and I went to the park. Immediately, FedEx guy rolls up as soon as we're gone. And he leaves the dreaded sticker there. You missed us.
I hate the sticker.
And this is a long weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I'm thinking, oh man, Graham timed it perfectly for the booze to arrive on Friday. And it was my own dumb fault for leaving in the morning thinking they would come in the afternoon. And I sent Graham this message. I'm like, I'm so sorry, the FedEx guy came, I wasn't here. And then just an hour before we recorded it, ding dong, for the first time in my life, the FedEx guy came back on the same day. This never ever happens. And he's like, I saw you had some booze and I wanted to make sure you got it for the weekend. I was like, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. And so he always gives us nothing but the best. And Brent, I apologize. I did not set a glass out for you, but
Okay, give me the bottle.
Yeah, feel free to drink freely from the bottle. He's given us Old Pulteney single malt Scotch whiskey. I assume this is for me because Aaron doesn't really like Scotch.
I love Scotch.
And
how dare you?
He's purchased Evan Williams single barrel vintage 2011 whiskey for Aaron. So
you chose wisely, Graham. You've done it again.
Aaron, I will pour you a sizable dram.
No, just a smidgen.
Boy, that smells great.
That's plenty right there.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Graham.
And
oh, yes.
Now, Brent, are you a fan of the Scotch?
I prefer tequila, actually, but
that's a big difference.
No kidding. But I will often sip on anything that's available.
Well, here you go. Have a sip. I will imbibe during our after show live stream Wacky time.
As opposed to this serious time we're having now.
That's right. Serious time's over.
Anytime your booze comes in its own special gimmick,
look at that.
That's some high dollar booze.
And that's a gimmick. Look at that boat. It's embossed on there.
Nice.
You're gonna
be on a boat like that soon.
Is it good?
That's crazy smooth.
I'm glad to hear it. This is 86 proof, so it'll put hair on your chest. This shape is known as the smuggler's kettle. What it says.
Is that what that is?
Right. So, March 1st, Aaron, 2019. We're getting into this year. Can you guess?
No. Man, that's some of the best bourbon I've ever had.
Really?
Oh man,
You're
that's-
speechless from the bourbon.
I can't even talk. That is breathtakingly
Well,
good.
I'm glad
What
to
was
hear
that?
it.
What was the question again?
March 1st, 2019.
Okay. March 1st. That was
Just a couple months ago, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately for Aaron, he can't remember yesterday.
Why are you asking me these? You know I don't have any idea. I don't know what day today is.
The third show on the Amigos Retro Gaming Network debuts, Our Sinclair.
Oh yes.
So talk a little bit about your thoughts about Our Sinclair.
You know, you were very exuberant about this idea, and I was hesitant, of course, because I didn't know if people were you remember what I said? People don't want to see me 3 times in a week. That's idiotic. But you pushed me violently forward until I agreed. And I will say, listen, this is no surprise. The Spectrum is awesome. We learned that from playing stuff on ARG, and then Brent got a dose as well. Specky's awesome. And so I had no doubt that the games would be fun, but I've enjoyed it way more than I thought. And it is an easy system to emulate, and it's a fun time. It's a nice light hors d'oeuvre before the Amigo main course. That's the way I look at it.
And of course, none of this would have been possible without the generous gift of the Huck, our very own ZX Spectrum that we have right here beside of us. Thank you once again, Gary Hucker, for that.
That's a great fellow.
You're not going to find too many ZX Spectrums in the hills of West Virginia.
No, you're not.
Not next to the ramps and the meth. So,
yeah, had to make it dark, didn't you?
It's time for another video, guys.
Okay, great. I'm loving these.
It's rapid fire time.
I like hearing people talk about how great I am.
I know.
It never happens.
I get used to it.
Alright guys, just want to say congratulations on surviving 200 episodes together. I want to thank you both for your hard work through the years, and you've been a great constant in my life through the good times and the bad. It's always great crack watching you live on Friday, except when I don't. And of course it's been an honor to support you through Patreon. I mean, how could I refuse to get my name sung in Boat's dulcet tones? It was great meeting you in Amiga Ireland this year, Boat, and also Figgy, Martin, Pixels at Dawn, and Edvin. Really hope Aaron makes a trip in 2020. Looking forward to the next 300 episodes, and as Bruce Willis says in Lethal Weapon, they may take our lives, but they'll never take our amigos.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that one.
Of course, that was the boss man, Paul
boss.
Harrington. Paul has never told us that he owns a Phil Collins-esque electric drum kit
No
that
kidding.
apparently he just keeps in the back of his room.
He's got a Boss drum set back
Yeah.
there. You know, I've never seen him. Like, I've never. That's the first time I've ever actually seen a picture of him or anything.
Yeah, because he's a toe jam
He's
on
he's a handsome gentleman.
He is. He's a good-looking guy, and
We're the lucky few, Paul.
it was great getting to meet him. He's the guy that picked me up from the bus station at Amiga Ireland. He's the first person I met.
Outstanding.
So, Brent, you wanted to add something in here.
Oh, no, I have a few. No, stay Mike.
Okay.
I have a few gifts.
Oh.
What would I be if I didn't bring something to the party?
The way you usually are.
I found what could possibly be the rarest Amigo prototypes out there today. And I thought, these aren't full games, but I found some box art that I think you might be interested in. Now, the first one we have is Boat of the Amazon Queen.
Oh, man.
And as you can see,
We'll zoom in on that.
Boat has made an appearance. His gaming debut, it might be.
Let me see that.
I think I'm wearing the Sheffield Blade Runners hat, too.
Oh, my. That's good. Oh.
That's wonderful. Stick that right there.
And, of course, I did find one other one.
I can't believe that.
I found Aaron Hart.
Now this is something special right here. Look at that. Never has Valdine or whatever his name is looked so svelte. Look at that. Look at that.
I don't know if we'll ever find the ROM for those games, but at least we can enjoy the box art.
It looks like I've got an album cover for me. Thank you, Brent.
Set that right up there in front of the bourbon so fans can continue to gaze upon it. Look at that.
Oh man, I cry sometimes. I know I mentioned that. Thank you, Brent.
Thank you, Brent.
Yes.
That was awesome. And I've discovered that if I just turn this way while you talk, the levels are great.
No,
so
there you go.
from now on, I just face this direction.
Think
for the
how
rest
good
of
it'd be
the
if you
show.
just kind of leaned in and hugged him, or maybe picked him on the cheek while you're.
All right. So now we've got some special. No, we don't. I skipped ahead on my outline.
Nothing. There's nothing special
here.
coming up.
We're going back in time again.
Oh,
We've
man.
reached the end of our Amigos timeline. We're going back, though, because July 13th, 2017, you've got to know this one.
Amigathon.
Amigathon 1.
Yeah.
Amigathon 1. We raised $925 for Make-A-Wish UK. You, me, Brent, Chad. I can't remember if anybody else was that in that first
John?
one.
John
I don't-
was
was
here,
John
wasn't he?
for the first one?
Because he
Okay.
catered that thing.
Oh, that's right. He brought he brought the Qdoba.
Absolutely.
Right.
That was,
I forgot
that was some
about
good
that.
eating back when I could eat that sort of thing.
Yeah. So this was a 12-hour marathon.
Way too long.
And I've prepared a little highlights video.
Oh, God.
For us to remember the good times. I've taken those 12 hours and distilled them down to their essence.
Oh, man. Okay, let's see it.
Sponsored by, well, it's not sponsored by anybody. We're benefiting Make-A-Wish UK.
2 sentences in.
We're here in lovely Hurricane, West Virginia. And for the next 12 hours, we hope you are entertained by our antics and by our Amiga playing. Family?
That's true. I do love it. Listen, I mean, that music's awesome.
It's very haunting. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go! Oh yeah! That's a pie in the face right there.
You had to stick that in there, didn't you? That was like a cinder block to the face, what that was. And let me guess, if you have highlights of the last Amigathon, mysteriously the boat pies, the footage has disappeared.
I don't know what happened to it. It got lost. It got lost. It may never be found.
That's garbage. Human garbage. That's what you are.
I do like how the 12 hours was condensed down to literally 30 seconds.
You condensed it down to you defaming and befouling the Lionheart theme, and it hit me with a pie.
Yes,
And I
yes.
distinctly remember you screwed up at the beginning. I was like 2 sentences in. I thought to myself, this is never going to fly. We're not making dime one today. It's what I remember thinking.
Now, in addition to actually, we have one more video. I know we've got a couple more videos,
more.
actually. Two more that we've not played. So we'll just go ahead and cue those up right now. Here's
Oh,
our
boy.
next one.
Hello. Hi, Maple. Anyway, congrats on the 200th episode. This is Kate Fox from the Discord. This is Maple. But yeah, thanks for bringing all this Amiga nostalgia into my life and making my week a little bit better every Friday. So yeah, congrats.
Thank you, Kate. Very kind of you.
Cute dog.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
an adorable
What do they
dog.
call those? Corgis?
Corgis.
Yeah.
Dogs. I believe they're called.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are. They got fur. It's not a cat.
Not a cat. Not a cat.
Thank you, Kate.
Yeah, thank you very much. We also got a letter from our fans. Not everybody sent in videos. Some people sent in text forms of greeting. This one comes from...
What? What's your word like that? Text forms of greeting. I can see you have one of those Star Trek meeting flashbacks, aren't you, Boat? Oh, God. Carry on. Proceed. How about that?
Did you ever used to give your friends orders like that? We used to have like Robert's Rules of Order, but in Star Trek Club, it would be like the Admiral would be able to give people permission to speak, permission denied.
My God, if I could do that, I'd shut everyone in the world up. You think people are going to listen to me bark orders out?
The Amiga, as it was in the 90s, became part of my identity as a teenager. I would rush home from school to play Syndicate, entertain my friends with the latest demo releases, and toil over the works of computer art into the early hours. What the machine represented was special. It would go on to be the foundation of my pursuits for the next 20 years. Because the system represents a connection to my youth, it occupies a specially reserved place in my memories, one that is simple and uncomplicated. When I discovered Aaron and John talking about that part of my youth in a way that complements my revered view of the Amiga, I was transported back to those times. They've created something, through their humble approach, that captures the qualities I'd bestow on the Amiga. More than that, Their efforts have created a community, one without the infighting, egos, and drama we so often see in the wider community. That is no small feat. The Amigos podcast, in my own opinion, represents everything that the Amiga was and should be. In a turbulent swell of online drama and negativity, the Amigos hold fast, riding out the storm with unfaltering weekly persistence. I might not be able to listen in as often as I might like, but it's reassuring to know that the Amigos lighthouse prevails. Here's to you, Aaron and John. May the Amigos light shine on. Will Williams.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, well said, sir.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. I felt like a king or something after that.
Right, yeah.
A lighthouse of Amiga, yes.
City on a hill.
I love it.
So, remember, Will was actually one of our first Brain Trust people. He has that Counting Virtual Sheep channel.
Beautiful.
And
he does photos.
Yeah. He's a really talented guy.
He was featured heavily in our Deluxe Paint episode.
Absolutely. He was one of our
by that
early
I mean, that's
interviews.
another one we didn't know what we were doing. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, everyone wants us to do a Deluxe Paint episode. Yeah. Better get someone that knows what they're talking about.
Okay.
Thank you, Will. That's
It's
awful nice.
time for our next date, July 7th, 2018.
That Amigathon 2.
Amigathon 2.
This one had everything went smoothly. Not one single cock up.
If you thought
24 straight hours of joy.
If you thought Amigathon 1 was a little rough, wait till you see Amigathon 2, where we tried to do this for 24 hours. Of course, we had they had to replace a cable modem, an internet router. Everything that possibly could go wrong almost did go wrong. However, we had a big cast of folks. Brent joined us again. Hose was here. John, Marshall, Chad, Terry, Christian, and
Luke.
We had tons of people. Everybody got a turn playing some Amiga. Once again, I've distilled it down to its essence.
Oh,
Wow, it's
man.
just going to be a no signal thing.
Listen, it's time to get serious.
When the flush of a newborn sun fell first on Eden's green and gold, our father Adam sat under the tree and scratched with a stick in the mold. And the first rude sketch that the world had seen was joy to his mighty heart, till the devil whispered behind the leaves, "It's pretty, but is it art?"
That's beautiful, Boat.
I wrote that.
What am I looking at here?
I get it. It's a
It's like
ninja.
If the Death Star and a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle had a kid. I can't wait to see his.
Wow.
Is Liam Angelo a zombie?
Hey, look, it's some stuff. Do you know what the objective is, or we're just stumbling in the dark here?
I think that you eventually you have to talk to somebody. This is the real game section that is going to be a single elimination tournament of thumb wrestling and rock, paper, scissors.
God.
One.
I haven't done this in like 30 years.
One. What are you doing? You can't yank your hand away. That was nice.
There it was. 24 hours of Amiga action.
No one likes
distilled
a crooked thumb. I noticed you cunningly didn't put any of the parts where we were all having conniptions. I guess because they weren't straight.
Yes.
It's funny how
Let's reenact it.
Now we've got a couple of other text messages that have come in about our 2 other episodes. Tapes from the Crypt from Texas wrote in. He said,
"The tape.
It's been said that simplicity beats complexity, so I'll keep things simple. One of my favorite podcasts, incredible hosts, a fantastic community, and a whole lot of fun. Cheers to 200 episodes, and here's to many, many more." Thank you very much, Tapes.
Tapes is a great guy.
We also
Man at the moon heart.
We also have one more that came in from Matthew Perron, and I am currently trying to find that right now. It was one of those things where I had it and then I erased it, and now I've had to find it again. Hey amigos, greetings from Saguenay, Quebec, Canada.
Are you natively French, Boat? That was amazing.
I know. Congrats for your 200th episode. Amigos for me is 2 awesome hosts with great chemistry and a wonderful community that is growing each week. You are fueling my love for my favorite computer, one podcast at a time. Thank you for all you are giving and Godspeed for the next 200 episodes. Don't forget, Soulemont, L'Amiga, Poot, Voos, Valorier.
Who can forget that?
I
Did
believe those are
you
the
have a
lines-
stroke while you were saying that?
What those are the lines from the Necronomicon?
I know, kidding. What the hell was that?
So
your French these words. Didn't you go to France recently? How did you get anything done over there?
I didn't make many friends over there, I can tell you that.
Mon frere. It's like, you kidding me?
And we've got one more fan submitted, listener submitted video. Another one of our all-time great contributors, really the backbone of the website.
Hello from Canada. I wanted to congratulate Boat and Aaron on reaching episode 200. It's an impressive accomplishment and really shows their passion and dedication. I also want to congratulate the others that do such great work to help contribute, like Dreamcatcher and his incredibly creative and deep articles, like Gary Hucker and his great tech videos, like Duncan Stiles and his reviews, Chris Folds and his videos and articles, the countless others on Discord that really help make the Amigos community so great. I found the Amigos back in September of 2016 during the Battle Squadron episode because I love Battle Squadron. In that episode, actually, Aaron was having some phantom mouse click issues that I did a little bit of research on and sent in some information to John about just areas to help troubleshoot. John replied back and he was so impressed he had asked if I could do an article on it. So I did, and after that I've been hooked. I find myself looking forward to every new episode, and I try to catch the live ones when I can. And I can't thank you guys enough for the warm reception and the friendship that I've found with you guys and through you guys to the rest of the Amigos community. Here's to 200 more. Adios, my friends. Oh, and here's a little snippet for Aaron. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Take off, eh?
Yes, thank you. That is for me. Just he knows what I like. I love it. I love it. And we were just talking. It's the first time we've ever seen him.
Right. It's the first time that we've seen a few of these folks, actually. So this has been really, really cool. And I told you that was the last one, but it was not the last one because there was one more.
You forgot about the man, the main man.
That's right, the main man, the Pixels man, Pixels at Dawn.
The Pix.
Yeah. So I've also lost control of my mouse. Okay, it's back. And
call
here we
Jason.
go.
Unleash the tendrils.
Pixels at Dawn here. Well, Aaron, Boats, Brent, congratulations on reaching your bicentenary. It's been a while, hasn't it? I have to admit, I had no inclination that the show would go on for quite this long, but you've made it work. You've really made it work. I was looking back through the records of where I started watching the Amigos, and it actually surprised me a bit that through one of my YouTube accounts or the other, I've actually been subscribed pretty much since day one, a little bit after that maybe. But although it wasn't until a little while in that I started watching the show religiously week after week, doing the live streams and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, one of my earliest memories is was suggesting Boat to play Nick Faldo's Championship Golf on one of these Amigos plays, and discovering that within minutes of me actually posting this on Facebook, he was already streaming it on the channel. So that was certainly put me in a good mind. But yeah, it's been great. So many games covered, and such good humour of it as well. Who knew that we'd be watching our West Virginian retro gaming champions at this point in time? And it's not just about the show either. It's about all the charity stuff with Amigathon and things like that, which a lot of podcasts wouldn't be doing. And also it's about the community as well. I mean, it's not just people in the show, but it's the people around the show as well. I've met quite a few of you now, and it's such a special community and such a just everyone's nice to each other. That's the great thing. And now with the Amigos Game Selection Committee and all that kind of stuff, I feel like I'm really part of the whole thing. So well done. It's been great. Here's to another 200 episodes if you feel you can make that much. But cheers.
Thank you, Pixels. Thank you very much, and thank you for running the Amigos Game Selection Committee. You make the wheel turn.
Pixels is a real go-getter.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's been a real good friend of ours for a long time. Pretty much almost everyone that wrote in, we've all been buddies and we know each other for a while. It is nice, the social aspect of it, which we didn't foresee. I didn't foresee most of this, actually, but you did. I got to give you credit on almost everything because I thought we would just make a little podcast. But we got the Discord action, we've got the website, the YouTube. I never would have thought we'd done any of this. We've met so many great people. It's been quite a treat.
So before we close this bad boy out, I'm wondering if each of you has an all-time favorite Amigos moment. An all-time least favorite Amigos moment.
Well, that's easy. I know that one. Violently being punched in the face with a pie, I'd say would be right at the top of the list. I know I went on and on about this, but I can't stress to you how painful that was. It sucked. My all-time favorite Amigos moment. Where I felt the most delight. It's funny because it was on Amigathon. It's when we got back on the air, we were under, especially you, since it was your house and it was your stuff. But we felt a lot of pressure to deliver a 24-hour marathon because we'd had a lot of support from a lot of our friends in the community, and a lot of people had paid good money to that charity to see us do our thing for 24 hours, and it was very painful when that thing went down. We were really under the gun, and you stepped up, and between you and Brent, John, luckily he was here, and everyone got together and got the problem fixed. And when we got back on the air, and that was a tough marathon, it really was, but there was a lot of delight when we kicked that back up, and a lot of relief. And so when I think of times that I had the most joy, and it was for a good cause too, I would say that's probably the top of the heap. Getting the show back online, and we got through it. Mm-hmm. And I'll admit that when we staggered through that last half hour, it was brutal. But I felt quite a sense of accomplishment. I thought we did a pretty decent job, all things considered. So I'd say that's going to be right up there. What about you?
Actually, you kind of stole my thunder, but maybe for a different reason. By far, my favorite moment involving the Amigos was when the Amigos marathon went down. But not for the reasons you might think.
Thanks, Brent.
It was because, all of us were here. There was a large number of us here. Mm-hmm. And we all immediately started troubleshooting the issue. We were on our phones. We were trying to reach out to the community, let them know what was going on. And for that brief moment, I guess it wasn't really brief. It was several hours.
For that brief 4-hour moment.
It wasn't that long.
It was really everyone working together with a common goal. And it was because we wanted to get out there and entertain and enjoy and inform and raise money. And no one gave up during that whole period. No one gave up. Everyone gave all that they could to try to get it back going. And that was probably my favorite Amigos moment. I would say the worst Amiga moment for me was just seeing that when the changes that have taken place over the Amigos over the years, we had a few fans that aren't with us anymore, not fatally, but something had happened and a gender was discussed incorrectly to someone who was doing work, and it looked like things were going to actually produce drama. The drama no one wants in a community like this. And for that brief moment, it was bad. It was it looked like things were going to fall apart. But everyone really stepped it up, knew it was an honest mistake, and we followed through. And really, nothing like that's ever happened since. It was the people that were offended left, and everyone was just like, if you're offended, sorry about that. We're going to keep on rolling and doing what we do. So those were both, the upside and the downside for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot. I can tell you my least favorite moment was Amigathon hour 22 to 23.
You were not happy.
It came from the desert. A game that I don't like, just in general, and having to play for an hour and having just like people were not being unkind. They were discussing other things in the background, but for whatever reason it was annoying me just to no end because I'm trying to concentrate on what's going on.
Oh, there was a good reason. It was hour 22.
Yeah. And boy, I had really reached the end of my rope. And of all the bad things that came out of losing all that archived, that's probably a good thing that's come out of it because I don't want people to see.
Yeah, because really, when we pied you, I was unpleased.
Yeah,
because it was just like kicking a dead puppy. And I was just like, Boat, keep it together. We're just going to get through this. But you were not happy.
Yeah.
I know you were really tired. Of course, you'd also been running all the cameras and stuff all night, so you were beat down.
It had been a long day psychologically with all of
this year. I'm sure it'll be much smoother.
I hope so. Now, my favorite moment of the Amigos has nothing to do with you guys. It's when I'm just kidding. It's when I went to Ireland and I got to meet people face to face for the first time. It was amazing the welcome that I got, and everybody. It was like we were already friends and we never met. I mean, you have that sometimes with people you meet on the internet, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you meet somebody online and you're like, "Ooh, this person is not who I thought they were." But everybody was just so warm and inviting from the time that Paul picked me up at the bus station and getting to meet Figgy and Edvin and Ian. And it was so much fun hanging out with those guys. The only bad thing was that it was so short, and so. I'm hopeful that one or both of you guys will get to go to Ireland and get to experience that because it was so cool.
One thing I do want to mention, there's a couple of people I want to mention that just to give acknowledgement to. One is our good buddy Dreamcatcher. He's been with us, it seems like forever. I mean, he's there way back.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you listen to the early episodes, you often refer to him on the EABs.
Right.
And he's been here, and he said he's a talented.
He is Brain Trust member number 1.
And he's also a guy who has unlimited potential. And is a professional writer through and through, tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
Another fellow I want to mention was, and he helped us out tremendously when we did our Amigos challenges, was Brutal Barracuda. He did some really good videos, and so we had a lot of fun with those. We really need to bring those back at some point, those high score challenges. Another fellow, sadly I can't remember his name, was the fellow that helped us. It really ran the Kickstart and Amigos magazine.
Oh, Neil Mansell.
Neil was a very talented and
still is with us,
and a great guy. The magazines were I go back and read those sometimes, and they were a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
We did a couple articles here and there. I've never done any sort of. I mean, it was fun to do, to write something. It was kind of.
But
neat.
he really put in a ton of time.
He did, and so, I know when he finally stopped. I mean, I talked to him, and it's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah,
and Neil really worked hard on those, and so that's something I want to mention. Those things are all still available,
mm-hmm.
much like Dreamcatcher stuff, which I urge everyone to go back and have a go at.
Congratulations, John and Aaron, on 200 episodes of Amigos Retro Gaming. I started listening way back in the early days, probably around episode 4, and to my surprise, here were these two fellas from West Virginia doing an Amiga podcast. That was interesting in itself. Pretty wacky, I'd say. I came across a fair haul of Amigas. I'm not trying to brag or anything, I just really do love these machines, and when I did come across quite a substantial load of Amigas, I was really, really excited, and I just wanted to connect with someone that would appreciate it. And there's no one in the area here that's into Amiga. They kind of look at you like you're very quaint when you mention older computers and Amigas and things like that. But I really love them, and I connected with John, sent John a message just to show him what I had, and John and Aaron both showed a appreciation for the machines, and I thought, oh well, I'll do some videos, and I asked John if it was alright if I hopped on the old gamble train, and John replied and said, yeah, go ahead and submit videos if you want to, that's fine. I drug out my Amiga collection and started filming. So I hooked up the old car to the gamble train and headed off down main trunk Amiga line to Commodore Station, and there we go. I've been doing videos ever since, so I've found that very rewarding and fun. One of the many things I really like about Amigos retro gaming are some of the sayings, and we don't hear a lot of West Virginian around these parts, so I actually like them so much I use them in my everyday life as much as I can. I've said it before and I'll say it again, thanks very much John and Aaron. I know that this takes a lot of your time, your spare time, and it's really appreciated. So keep up the good work, and here's to another 200 episodes. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, Gary. Gary is our hardware maven.
He's the master.
I still remember getting that first message when he was like, I just got 14 Amigas, and I was like, man, that's awesome. You should definitely make a whole bunch of videos and put them on YouTube.
And Gary,
he did.
Gary's videos are very popular.
Yes.
Gary's been very generous to us as well over the years.
Yeah.
He's
sent us the 600 and the Specky.
He's a real great guy. And he's also he's very talented. Like I've mentioned this before, but I like his videos. He's got a down to earth way of explaining things, and that's the way I like it. I like it kept down for someone like myself.
Hey, John. Sorry, I had not time. Sorry, let's try that again.
Clearly, Duncan's a caveman. I know timely methods now.
Hi, John. Sorry, not had time to make a video, but I have written this. He says it in that weird British English style.
I know.
That trips me up.
Just the way you sounded like what was the Kid Chaos for a second there.
Congratulations. 200 episodes is one heck of an achievement. Did you think it would last this long?
No.
You asked us to tell you what the show meant to us, so here is how I sum it up. I cannot remember how I first found out about the podcast, and I have no idea what number episode you were on, but it was audio only. At that time, I hadn't really used my Amiga for many years, and it just sat in the cupboard. At first, the show was just something to listen to at work. It kept me entertained for an hour or so, and every now and then you would talk about something I remembered or a game I had played. Now the show has me playing old favorites and trying classics for the first time. Not just Amiga titles, but Spectrum too. I didn't own one back in the day as I was a CPC user, and it's interesting to see how the two compared. I became a supporter because I appreciate the work and the time you both put into all things Amigos. You even let me post articles and videos I've enjoyed making a tiny contribution where I can. And you've made more than a tiny contribution, Duncan.
Yeah. His stuff's really good.
Yeah. I just checked and I have 55 gigs of data that relates to Amigos stuff. Images, videos, and renders, etc. Remember, he rendered all of those intros for the award ceremony in January.
Those are awesome, too.
Yeah. You once left me off the supporters list for a couple of weeks, and to make up for it, you sang me my very own supporters song.
I'll never forget that.
I'll never forget that. Episode 117 for anyone that would like to hear that masterpiece. The Amigos have brought me back to these old machines and games, encouraged me to get the old systems set up again, and purchase new kit for them. Thanks for being the keystone in this growing community, and what a great bunch of people it is. Long may it continue. All the best, Duncan.
Awesome.
Thanks very much, Duncan. Yeah. Well, before we get out of here, of course, we've got to read the Patreon names. Now, I was so busy putting this thing together this week, I'm not going to lie to you, I did not think up a good song to sing. So, it's going to have to wait till next week.
Like Fat Boy style.
How do you rap Fat Boy style?
You gotta do the human beatbox.
Hyperventilate?
Noticeably F-18, lay us down a beat.
Why don't you beatbox, Aaron?
I can't. Clearly.
Was that what you were doing?
I was trying to.
Okay.
I'm not the human beatbox.
So I'm just going to thank you all. Gary Heather, Free Lunch, Kate Fox, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones, Lobsterminator, Craig McClellan, 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast, Counting Virtual Sheep, Bernard Quinn, Retro Man Cave, Tim Drew, Simon Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Etter, Rob O'Hara, Howard Nibbs, Matthew Larimore, Andy Craig, Shanzo, Darren Lomax, Colin 419, Barkbit, Roland Burke, Andrew Monks, Joe the Zombie, John Cook, Dan Ross, Leaf Kaland, Alan Kebab, Chicote, Level Lord, John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky DeRocher, Creepy Dead Boy, Figgy CTZ, The Slow Norse, Stefan Sorgard Mortensen, Edvin Helland, Blindo75, Christopher Hassel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Folds, Dreamcatcher, Lauren Giroux, Graham Vebke, Lane Denson, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Hucker, C. Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Styles, Alan Kebab, Tapes from the Crypt, Josh Nan, Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim Tommy Humbertstad, Daniel Bingston, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Warnes, Pixels at Dawn, and
Killborn Barman.
Thank you guys so much for supporting this show throughout its 200 episode run.
You know, as you go down that list, I want to kick in. It seems like almost every one of those fellows and ladies, so Man Jack, it seems like we've interacted with them. The people could just send a couple bucks or whatever. These are people that get in there. They help out. We love it when people in the group put up videos or post stuff in the Discord. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best. And that's what makes doing this show so much fun, because me and Bud are just a couple dipsticks and Brent's a super dipstick. We just kind of lumber in like doopuses, do our thing. But the community keeps the ball rolling. They keep it fresh. They keep it fun for us, don't they?
That's
They help us
right.
out.
That's
They do
absolutely
stuff
right.
that we don't have the ability to do because we're dumb.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
And I do want to thank, who our very first Patreon supporter was?
Was it O'Brien?
No, it was this guy right here.
Oh, God, no.
Brent Dowdy. Want to thank Brent for not only supporting us for many, many years, but also hosting the show. Thank you for hosting the show. And I want to thank, of course, Jason and our development team for keeping our website running.
And
Jason,
upgrading.
Yeah, Jason hosts the site through a wacky thing that I can't even pretend to understand. I want to thank everybody that's ever contributed anything to this site. You guys are just the best.
We do
You're all the
appreciate
best.
you. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to thank Jonas for the magnets that he provides free of charge.
He's a real nice guy.
Yeah,
too.
he's a super awesome guy. O'Brien's for all of the packages over the years.
Been here forever.
Yeah, anybody that's ever sent us stuff in the mail, I know how expensive it is to send stuff from
Yes.
overseas. You guys are so awesome.
All the candy we've had, all the boxed games and stuff. It's been tons of stuff.
Yeah. So I did not. The chat is screaming because I didn't announce last week winners. I will announce last week winners next week with the new Patreon song. I gotta leave something on the table so you guys tune in again next week. I can't leave it all
That's
out
the
there.
teaser?
That's the teaser.
Do you know what game we're doing next week, Bo?
I do. Next week we're playing Daley Thompson's Decathlon.
No, wrong show.
Oh, okay. We're playing Arabian Nights.
Arabian Nights.
You've never seen that movie?
No, I mentioned that. I got it confused with Arabian from the arcade. Not the same game.
No, not even close.
I don't know.
It's kind of like confusing Aladdin with Lawrence of Arabia.
It's not. Yeah, it is. I admit it.
All right, guys. Thanks as always for watching. I want to thank everybody who's hanging out with us in the chat. We record the show every Friday, except when we don't. Picard 2005,
Make it
Gary
so.
Hucker, Edvin Helen, Kate P, Duncan Styles, Michael Ryan, Pixels at Dawn, Jason Warnes, Will Williams, Lobsterminator X, Paul Harrington, might have said that twice, Hasifa, Andy Craig.
It's a who's who in here.
Yeah.
It's a cornucopia of our buddies and pals.
Thank you all so much. Anybody the chat goes on for years. So
I love it. That's awesome.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for this special episode. And keep on playing the Amiga. We'll see you next week. Adios.